Click the subscribe button, hit the bell icon to never miss another update.
Assalamu alaikum and welcome to Quran Time with Hania, where we explore the Quran and the interesting stories inside this marvelous book. This part covers the remainder of Surah Araf and then the start of Surah Anfal. Allah tells us Prophet Musa's story in Surah Araf. Prophet Musa was naturally inclined to help his people. One day, while trying to free an Israelite who was being tortured by an Egyptian, Prophet Musa killed the Egyptian with one blow. This incident reached the elite circle of the ruling class, who branded Prophet Musa as a friend of the Israelites, whom the Egyptians hated from the core of their hearts. They passed an anonymous resolution to have a public trial of Prophet Musa to get him killed for killing an Egyptian. A noble person in the clan of the Pharaoh informed Prophet Musa of the plot, and he helped him escape into the desert. The desert journey was very difficult. Prophet Musa reached the city of Madian. He came to rest at a well where several shepherds were busy watering their herds. He saw that there were two young women waiting for their turn to serve their herd. The men pushed the women aside and took their turns while the ladies waited patiently. Prophet Musa could not remain passive at the sight. He offered to help the young women by pulling the water from the well. They told him that their father was old, and since he was unable to do this work, they had no choice but to come out to serve their herd. Sometimes it could be quite late in the evening when they returned to their home. Prophet Musa helped them water their herd, and they returned home early. Their father inquired on their unusual early return. They told him of the incident at the well. Prophet Shuaib recognized the deed to be that of a man of Allah and sent one of his daughters to bring him home. Prophet Musa had nowhere else to go, so he accompanied the lady to her home. Prophet Shuaib offered Prophet Musa to stay with him and married one of his daughters to him. He lived in the clan for about 10 years and led an extremely simple life in contrast to the comforts of the royal Egyptian palace. He tended the sheep and goats of the family and spent time in the solitude of the desert. Here he contemplated and reflected on his past and present experiences. He had discussions with his father-in-law, Prophet Shuaib, which enriched him spiritually. He reflected over the plight of his people in Egypt and made a firm resolution to free them from the servitude of the Egyptians. After living 10 years in Madian, Prophet Musa left for Egypt, accompanied by his family. On their way one night, they pitched their tents near Mount Sinai. It was cold and they needed fire for warmth. He saw what looked like a fire higher up on the mountain. Prophet Musa told the family to stay in the tents, while he would go up the mountain to bring the fire for their comfort. When he arrived at the site, instead of fire, he noticed a brilliant light emanating from a bush. Prophet Musa approached the bush cautiously when he heard a voice calling him to take off his shoes, as he was in the presence of his Creator, and that he was standing on sacred ground. It was here that Allah bestowed upon Prophet Musa the gifts of miracles to be used while confronting the mighty Pharaoh. He was given a brilliant light in his hand and a staff with miraculous powers. Allah told him that he would give him other great signs to help accomplish his mission. Prophet Musa was then instructed to proceed to Egypt immediately. Prophet Musa said that he was afraid of getting arrested on a previous murder charge, and also because he could not speak fluently due to his stuttering. He prayed to Allah to grant him fluency of speech and have his brother Harun help him and be a deputy to him in all his tasks ahead. Allah granted Prophet Musa his request and told him that he could take his brother along with him, and told him to be gentle in his language and be patient in all his dealings. Prophet Musa was overwhelmed at the experience. The brilliant light emanating from the bush disappeared. He knew that it was not a dream, and he indeed was in the presence of the Divine One. Prophet Musa came down from the mountain, narrated his experience to his wife, who acknowledged him to be the Prophet of Allah and gave him the reassurance and comfort he needed. They made their way to Egypt and to the house of Imran, his father. He took Prophet Harun aside and told him of his appointment as a prophet and his successor. Prophet Harun was pleased and assured to help his brother in the task that lay ahead. Prophet Musa and Harun arrived in the court of the Pharaoh and told him that his claim of godhood was false, for there was but one God who created the king and the subject. He controls all that is in the world and beyond. The only reason for his return to Egypt was to obtain the release of his people from their bondage in Egypt. The Pharaoh was not pleased and said that Prophet Musa was a criminal and was to be hanged for the crime of killing an Egyptian. Prophet Musa said that the final justice was in the hands of Allah and that the Pharaoh himself was committing the worst crime in defying his own creator by forcing his false godhood over his subjects. Prophet Musa produced the miracle and showed how with the will of Allah his hand could produce blinding brilliance. The Pharaoh laughed and said that was nothing but an act of magic. To impress Prophet Musa, his magicians threw strings on the floor which turned into snakes. Prophet Musa threw his staff to the floor. It became a serpent and devoured all the wriggling snakes. The magic of the Pharaoh was beaten, but he declined to acknowledge the superiority of Allah over him. As he defiantly refused to allow Bani Israel to leave Egypt, Prophet Musa had to unleash the punishment of Allah over him and his people. These punishments came in the form of unseasonal floods that demolished everything, swarms of locusts that destroyed the crop, lice and insects that made life miserable, toads that croaked and sprang everywhere, and the turning of all drinking water into blood. Each time the Pharaoh was subjected to humiliation, he grew more stubborn. Finally, when the firstborn sons of all Egyptians started to die as a punishment from Allah, including the beloved son of the Pharaoh, he finally gave up and reluctantly let Bani Israel leave Egypt. Prophet Musa issued specific instructions for his people to collect all their belongings and leave their homes before sunrise, to gather outside the city. Prophet Musa led his people out of the city and headed straight for the shores of the Red Sea. When the day dawned and the Egyptians saw their city to be devoid of the workforce, they reported this to the Pharaoh. He could not believe that Prophet Musa could leave with his people so fast. His hatred turned into a mad rage. He mounted his fastest chariot and in the company of his swiftest horsemen chased Prophet Musa and his people and caught up with them at the Red Sea. Prophet Musa and his people were sandwiched between the army of the Pharaoh and the Red Sea. The Pharaoh laughed at the situation and said that the God of Musa was not a very clever strategist, and clearly they were at his mercy. He ordered them to return or be killed on the spot. The faith of Bani Israel wavered, and they started to blame Prophet Musa for this disaster. Prophet Musa prayed for help from Allah and hit the waters of the Red Sea, which created a dry passage between two walls of water. He ordered his people to quickly cross over to the other side. When they were halfway down the path, the Pharaoh descended down the same path, in hot pursuit of the people. As soon as the last of the people had crossed over to the other side, the waters returned to fill the gap and drown the defiant Pharaoh, his army, his swift chariot, and all their fast horses. Prophet Musa prayed to Allah and thanked him for his divine assistance to him and his people. Prophet Musa led the large caravan through the hot desert of Sinai and arrived at the foothills of Mount Sinai. Prophet Musa told his people that he was going up the mountain for a few days, and Prophet Harun would act as his deputy in his absence. They should consider Prophet Harun to be their leader, just as he himself was to them, and that they should be obedient to him, just as they were to Prophet Musa himself. Having given them these instructions, he left for the heights of Mount Sinai. Prophet Musa returned to the spot where he had first received his miracles from Allah. He took off his shoes as before and went down into subjugation to the Creator and the Sustainer of the universe. He prayed to Allah and he was given the 10 Commandments. In the absence of Prophet Musa from the camp, the Israelites defied Prophet Harun. Misguided by Samari, a disbeliever, they collected their golden jewelry and quickly wrought a golden calf from it, as they had done for the temples of the Pharaoh for years. They said that the God of Musa was nowhere to be seen, and Prophet Musa had abandoned them in the wilderness. They started worshipping the calf and danced around it in sinful pursuits and indulged in immoral acts. When Prophet Musa arrived at the camp, he was infuriated to see his people in clear defiance of his specific orders. He was very angry with his brother for letting them indulge in kufr. Prophet Harun told him that they would not listen to him. Prophet Musa admonished Samari and broke and burnt his golden calf. Some people asked for forgiveness from Prophet Musa and Allah and were saved from brutal punishment. But those who did not ask for forgiveness were punished by Allah immediately. Suddenly, the earth started to tremble and it cracked open. The disbelievers fell into the crack and the earth swallowed them whole. It is narrated that a number of Jews or a number of people from the Quraysh went to the Prophet and asked him when the day of judgment will arrive. Allah responded by sending down this verse. They question you concerning the hour. When will it set in? Say, its knowledge is only with my Lord. None except him shall manifest it at its time.